Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Dan from Unicorn Riot. We are in day 26, I think, of the Derek Chauvin trial. Appreciate you all joining in bright and early. Just wanted to get things ready just in case they go to motions. I think they were talking yesterday about possibly having a rebuttal witness today, I believe. And so I just wanted to be ready for that so we could jump right off. So if people want to talk about where they're watching from, that's totally fine right now. I can name people's locations as we get going. We're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter Live. Alex is jumping on with the tweets. So if you don't want to watch this, obviously this can be traumatic material. It can cause what's called vicarious trauma. It's possible to just follow the twists and turns from the tweets, and then that way you don't have to deal with the more visceral, dramatic material in the court proceedings. I just want to mention that. We take note of that. We try to put up content advisories, but we do appreciate your support if you want to tune in. So let's see, where are people watching from today? Minneapolis, Tennessee, saying hello, fellow Earthlings. Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, Birmingham, Alabama. Good morning from Tampa, Myanmar, Derby, England, Alabama, Minneapolis, Casey, Missouri, sunny Los Angeles, Boston here, London, South Florida, London, Atlanta, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Fort Lauderdale, Minneapolis Strong, South Minneapolis, Phoenix, Arizona, St. Louis Park, Billings, Montana, Madison, Wisconsin, Tipton, Michigan, Shreveport, Louisiana, Shreveport, baby. Dayton, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, Western Pennsylvania, Madison, Wisconsin, Barbados, good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Bonita Springs, Florida, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Georgia, Minnesota-born, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, Cheverly, Maryland, Knoxville, Iowa, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Winnipeg, Manitoba, over on the YouTube, New Zealand, somewhere on Earth, Toronto, Texas, Eagle, Michigan, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Martinez, California, New York, Dominican Republic, Kenosha, Wisconsin, UK, Appalachia, Columbus, Ohio, Jersey, my house, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Bemidji, I bet it's cold up there, San Diego, Detroit, Northeast Minneapolis, Seattle, South Minneapolis, Miami, Florida, Seattle, San Diego, Utah, Dallas, Texas, Canada. Good morning, Kentucky, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Appalachian Mountains, Illinois, Calabash, North Carolina, Dubai. We're all over the world. Toronto, Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, it's great to have, it is really cool to have folks watching all over the world. It looks like our closed captioning on YouTube is working correctly. For accessibility, the streams, captions can be a little strange, but it looks like, I guess, YouTube and Facebook, you can get captions immediately. Austria and New England, Austria, Mexico, Portland, Cyprus, Davenport, Iowa, Houston, Texas, London, England, the moon, quote unquote, Utah, Richmond, Virginia, Bemidji, Kenosha, Boston, and then back on Facebook, Boston, Massachusetts, Orange County, California, Louisville, Kentucky, Roseburg, Oregon. The whole world's watching, says Lisa. We have views from all 7 continents. Good morning from the Pasqua tribe, Rome, Italy. What's on the docket today? Cumberland, Wisconsin, Alaska, Colorado, Portland, Maine, St. Cloud, Minnesota, North Carolina, North Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Duluth, Seattle, Virginia, Duluth, hello Duluth, Kansas City, Scotland, Pensacola, Florida, Rochester, New York, over at the Hy-Vee, Berlin. Good morning from Washington. Good morning, North Dakota, Rochester, New York, Kentucky, Berlin, Anoka, Minnesota, Minot, North Dakota is back again, Minnetonka, Minnesota, Berlin, I already said that, South Africa, hello South Africa. We talked about some stuff about South Africa yesterday, and our colleague, our collective member D, is also in South Africa, been reporting from South Africa. I'll mention that again because Fowler was from Zimbabwe and trained in South Africa. And this ESCOM story is all about South African. Oh, okay. Go. Thank you. One second, folks. Okay. Now the Twitter's up. Oops. Chicago, Columbia, Missouri, Florida, Cottage Grove, Minnesota, Minnetonka, Minnesota, but in Colorado, Minneapolis, Edina, cake eaters, Louisville, Kentucky, Wilmington, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. It's Montana, St. Louis, Utah, London, England, Manitoba, Biloxi, Mississippi. I've been there. Guadalajara, Mexico, Rochester, New York, Deer Park, Texas, Youngstown, Ohio, Chilliwack, British Columbia, Columbia Heights, Minnesota, Yorkshire, England, North Korea, probably not, Virginia, Muskegon, Michigan, Red Wing, Ferndale, Missouri, Buffalo, Biloxi, Richmond, Virginia, Mexico, Portland, Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, Omaha, Hart. Okay, so let's St. Paul, Minnesota, Montevideo, Minnesota. Hello, Montevideo. Richfield, Oklahoma City. So we're just we're waiting for day 26. Newburgh, New York, Kansas, Arizona peeps, Copenhagen, Denmark, Portland, hi Portland, ABCA. Hemet, California, Philly, Pennsylvania, Newburgh, New York, Northern California, North Pole, Nashville, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, Kalamazoo, Northeast, Minneapolis, Nashville, Tennessee, St. Paul, UK, Northside, Minneapolis, Belly of the Beast, Arizona, Menominee, Wisconsin in the house, I-94 country, Cincinnati, Westchester, Ohio, Eau Claire, also I-94 country, Canada, Osseo, Minnesota, Northfield, Minnesota, Duluth, Minnesota, North Carolina, Andover, Minnesota, Hershey, Pennsylvania. What's up, Canada? Houston, Texas. Yes. All right. Okay, cool. So, Nico is made it home, okay. Nico was detained last night, and the police gratuitously damaged our microphone and destroyed I think the neighborhood reporter's gear as well. So there was definitely a bad encounter after we went down for being live last night. And then he got injured with the marker round the night before. So, it's tough out there. They're using a lot of munitions. But Nico is, safe at the moment. He wasn't, held overnight or anything like that, fortunately. And we do appreciate all your support. So let's see. Cape Town, South Africa. Great. Portland, Oregon. Lina Lakes, Columbus, Ohio. Alexandria, Minnesota. Let's see. Akron, Ohio. Hutchinson, Alaska. Albany, New York. Southeast Alaska. What else we got? Cuenca, Ecuador. Perth, Australia. I'm not going to talk too much about stuff behind the scenes, but we did have to, scramble. We had other equipment damage this week, and so we have a new Panasonic camera that we were using last night, which was really pretty good. We're trying to improve the game. In general, I'd say Panasonic cameras are very good in the field. They've treated us well over the years at whatever level of Panasonic. Ontario, Canada, Denver, Colorado. Copenhagen says hello. Long Beach, California. Bushnell, Florida. The great country of Texas and more Texas. Wichita, Kansas. Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. St. Louis, Missouri. Yazoo City, Mississippi. Buffalo, New York. Springwater, New York. Yeah, what about the woman in the dressing gown? That's a great question. Someone who was basically wearing like a bathrobe. I think they gave an interview to Max and Esterac, and then a few minutes later, boom, they got arrested, like right behind Nico. We were live when that happened. That was pretty sad. I think those people were residents, Right, Hungary, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota, Northern Michigan, Springwater, New York. All right, so what I think we'll do, let me run it down. Okay, hi, Bloomington, Illinois, A Cab, USA, Pueblo, Colorado, Oxford, England. Uh, Nico did not get arrested, and it wasn't exactly live on the stream. He got detained for a little while, and then they let him go, but they went out of their way to mess with our microphone and mess with especially other people's equipment, which is worse. Turku, Finland, Peoria, Illinois. We are playing in Peoria. Pittsburgh, Bloomington, Illinois. Amsterdam, Bushnell, Florida. Canada, Columbia Heights, representing Nashville, Tennessee. Denver, Colorado, says hello. Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. Red Wing, Minnesota. Baltimore, Maryland. Stephentown, New York. Buffalo, New York. Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Montgomery, Alabama. Orange County, California. St. Cloud, Minnesota. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. So let's break it down a little bit while we got some time here. We had David Fowler, who was this big witness for the defense. We're in the phase of defense witnesses, and so David Fowler, yeah, like I went over it all yesterday. In 2018, he helped kind of cover up a custody death of someone named Anton Black, according to a lawsuit against him. And so he's definitely someone that tends to just be called upon to say, oh yes, this person had a fatal heart condition when police were crushing them, but it definitely wasn't because of the police. And he had that role in Maryland for a very long time. And so he was the testifier yesterday. Someone said that there could be a toxicologist to come up. I think that would be a logical thing to happen at this point. The judge said earlier this week that they figured testimony would probably finish by the end of the week. So, you know, and there could be, again, motions about a rebuttal or something like that. I wanted to pick it up quick and early just in case there was motions that popped up. We're not seeing it yet. This is live right now from court. And so what the judge said was that closing arguments would be on Monday so that the jurors could rest over the weekend. So the idea was finish everything up, closing arguments Monday, and then they start deliberating, and they'll be sequestered when they're deliberating. They're not sequestered right now. We also know that the verdicts will not be announced late in the day. If it comes in at like 3 o'clock, they are going to not go they're not going to announce it until the morning, or some, you know, roughly speaking, we can expect that. All right, we also got Newark, New Jersey, Louisville, Kentucky, OBXNC, Louisville, Kentucky, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, Austin, Rockville, Maryland. Let's see, what else? What is the lawsuit in Maryland against the apartheid witness / expert? That involves the family of Anton Black, and there's a story on The Intercept. There's a story on WTOP, Maryland News, which was pretty detailed, I thought. And you can see that our website is unicornriot.ninja. We depend on you folks to get our work out there, out and around. You can hit the Derek Chauvin trial link at the top of the page. And if you go here, you can go down to the report from April 14th, and the links are there to the stuff involving David Fowler. I put those links in yesterday. So that's where that info is. So we're still waiting for court to come back here. You know, if there's motions, they probably would have started by now. So I would expect it'll be down for maybe 7 minutes, and the jury will start at 9:15 probably. So I think at this point what I'll do is, we have all this footage that I've got ready from Wednesday night, and so I will set it up and we can run some footage and show you what happened in Brooklyn Center. You know, as a quick reminder, so Daunte Wright was killed by this officer Kim Potter on Sunday afternoon in Brooklyn Center, and Potter got a second-degree manslaughter charge. It was at first held on probable cause manslaughter, and then had a charge, I think, filed in Hennepin County yesterday, and that was taken in by the BCA yesterday at, I think, 11:30. And Pete Orput, the Washington County attorney, is managing the case because the cases are moving around between counties. They're not staying in their home counties, I guess. That charge guideline is a 48-month sentence, according to Mary Moriarty, of which the last third would be parole. The maximum could be longer, but that's the sentencing guideline. This is a live shot from the courtroom right now. You can see the seal of the state of Minnesota, an embossed version of it, which has always featured an American Indian moving left and a settler plowing a field moving right. There are a few versions of it. L'Etoile du Nord is the North Star in French. That is the state seal of Minnesota, which we've seen plenty of during this case. Alright, so let's see here. More munitions got kicked off, and again, our contributor Sam Richards had a nice story about the munitions network and how they went to Casper, Wyoming to grab munitions. A correction, I said Colorado yesterday. It was actually to Wyoming. And we saw those same munitions last night. We saw Defense Technologies, if I recall, last night, munitions. You can actually see Casper, Wyoming written on the munitions with this camera. So while we're waiting, I'll run some footage as we're waiting from last night's protests in Brooklyn Center, and we do appreciate your support. Again, Nico did get detained for a while. I think it was less than 15 minutes. Oh, hi, Martinsburg, West Virginia. Good to have you. Martinsburg. Hope I can visit Martinsburg, actually. It's another story. Anyway, we're glad to have everybody here tuning in from all over, from, Australia and England, and we had Israel and Palestine the other day, Central America. It's very cool that we're able to reach people, right? Like, we don't, we're not a big commercial media company. We don't have broadcast towers and stuff. So we count on everyone to kind of get the word out about what we're doing, and we do really appreciate the support. And if you can support our work, we're a 501c3, a registered nonprofit organization. Donations are tax deductible, non-commercial, Creative Commons, share alike with attribution. But if you're running a monetized, troll channel, you are not eligible to run our stuff. It is a non-commercial license, so just be aware of that. It is non-commercial. Thank you. All right. So as we're waiting, hello to New Hampshire. New England fam is on today, which is good. Yesterday, Jerry Blackwell. If people didn't see that, you can see it in our video stream, in our videos from yesterday. Jerry Blackwell's cross-examination of David Fowler seemed like a really good cross-examination compared to it was almost cinematic. Court is not always as cinematic as TV makes it out to be, but that was a pretty serious one. Good morning from Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, other Texas. Got a lot of Texans in the house today, it looks like. Hi from Australia. My brother tuned me into you guys here in Indiana. Okay, someone's asking if this is the last witness testimony day, and there's probably going to be witnesses on Friday, right? Because the cross-examinations, this is going to be a toxicology thing, I guess. So, there's going to be, I assume there'll be toxicology between now and the end. Seems logical. So there's going to be a lot of cross-examination about the science of that, right? We're diving into the science. There's really, in a way, I sort of look at it, there's sort of two sides to the witnesses. There's like the eyewitnesses, the people that were there, in terms of how the state presents it, and then there's the science, and we saw a lot of the science like last week, people like Dr. Tobin, and so now we're coming into and Dr. Tobin was very clear about warning that there's a lot of crummy kind of fake science, more or less, and Tobin sort of explained some stuff that then Fowler tried to float as authentic science. And it was very interesting that Tobin laid the table for that last Thursday, and then yesterday it got laid out. The fake science version, give or take. So, Indiana says hi, Wisconsin says hi. What else we got? Yep. All right, so we'll run some footage from the protests out in Brooklyn Center as we're waiting. We do really appreciate your support. It's been great. You know, not just it's great people have donated, right? Because we had to get a new camera yesterday. But I think the friendliness, the emotional support, people being respectful in the chats has been really good. It's been great. So I'll leave it at that. Say hi to Oklahoma. Let's see what else. Indianapolis, Powell River, Canada. It's really good. So thanks all for joining us. So we'll run some footage from the stuff from the things in Brooklyn Center yesterday, and then we'll wait for court to come back, which could start in a couple minutes. But you know, we can always tell from the reflections. Usually, see the plexiglass there. I think that's showing the defense table, and we haven't seen any motion in the plexiglass yet, so I don't think it's happening. Bonjour from Montreal. I'm in California. Chicago. Windsor, Ontario. Indianapolis. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for joining us. One moment. Yeah. Like everyone says on YouTube, hit that like button on chats. You know, tell your friends, try to get subscriptions, notifications. We don't, you know, when we're going to go live, we don't necessarily have a schedule for it. Sometimes we have equipment problems, stuff like that. So it's just best to set notifications so that when we do go live, that you can get it. We don't, usually when we go live, it's, you know, it's for something real that's happening. So you'll probably want those notifications. Yeah, we are on Patreon as well. I'll mention that. So let's just look up Unicorn Riot on Patreon. We're there. Thank you to the new Patreon subscribers. It's really appreciated. We know it's, you know, a big ask for people to make donations if you have the resources, and it is really appreciated. Dumfries, Scotland, UK. Hibbing, Minnesota says hi. Washington State, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Terre Haute, Indiana. Porter County, Indiana. Panama City, Florida. Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, Louisiana, Northwest Indiana, Tampa Bay area, Upper Michigan. People are asking about merch. We don't have merch available right now. I think, you know, once things settle down, we'll probably look at it again. But at the moment, we don't have merch available. Minot, North Dakota, Upper Michigan, Burlington, Vermont. More Indiana. We got a lot of Indiana fam in the house, huh? Houston, Texas, USA, 713 area code. That's great. Alright, so yeah, this, so we'll go to the, oh my gosh, maybe they are coming back. Alright, we'll run the stuff for a few minutes. I'll watch, I think they'll be back within 5 minutes. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll run that stuff from last night. Thank you all. Again, this is Dan producing today, and we got Alex rocking the tweets already. Twitter.com/UR_ninja. Please subscribe to the Twitter account, pass it around, and let people know. Thank you.
Hello everybody, welcome. We're here live again outside of the Brooklyn Center Police Department. Large crowd is still here.
Quit your job! 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 Quit your job!
There's a lot of shooters on the roof of, a lot of police officers on the roof of the Brooklyn Center Police Department. This is in response, these crowds are in response to the police killing of Daunte Wright, who was 20 years old. in Brooklyn Center on Sunday.
We're back live in court. This is live. 8/17/9/17.
All right, we are on the record. A few matters to take care of regarding the defense case. Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense intends to arrest. A colloquy relevant to the Fifth Amendment privilege.
Yes. Just be able to do this. So, Mr. Chauvin, if you could use this more wireless mic. And you can remain seated for this. And Mr. Nelson, make sure you're close to the microphone.
Mr. Chauvin, you and I have had several discussions throughout the course of my representation of you relevant to your right to testify or to choose to remain silent, correct?
That's correct.
And during the course of our representation, it's fair to say that you and I have had this conversation multiple times, correct?
Correct.
You understand that you have a Fifth Amendment privilege to remain silent. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand that if you choose to exercise that right to remain silent, neither the state nor the court can comment on your silence as a sign or an indication of your guilt. Meaning they can't say, he didn't get up and defend himself, so equate your silence with guilt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Now, you also understand that you can waive that right and testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that if you chose not to testify, or if you did in fact testify, you would be subject to cross-examination by the state of Minnesota.
Yes.
You understand that if you were cross-examined by the state, we could not attempt to limit the scope of your testimony. The state would be given broad latitude to ask you questions. Do you understand that?
Yes.
We've had this conversation repeatedly, correct?
Correct.
I have repeatedly advised you that this is your decision and your decision alone, right?
Correct.
I have advised you, and we have gone back and forth on the matter, would be kind of an understatement, right?
Yes, it is.
But after a lengthy meeting last night, we had some further discussion, agreed?
Correct.
And have you made a decision today whether you intend to testify or whether you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
Mr. Chauvin, I'm going to address you directly because the decision whether or not to testify, I'm going to take this off, is entirely yours. In other words, it's a personal right. Mr. Nelson makes a lot of the decisions in trial, but one he cannot make for you is whether or not you testify. And he can give you advice, and you can take that advice or reject that advice. But the decision ultimately has to be yours and not his. Is this your decision not to testify?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions about your right to remain silent or to testify on your own behalf?
Not at this time, I don't.
All right. Has anyone promised anything or threatened you in any way to keep you from testifying?
No promises or threats, Your Honor.
Do you feel that your decision not to testify is a voluntary one on your behalf?
Yes, it is.
Now, in addition to that, I'm convinced then that this is your personal decision and that you are aware of your rights, but there is a jury instruction that may be read to the jury. This, again, is the one that you get to weigh in on. It's not for your lawyer to make the decision. Again, he can give you advice, and I don't even want to know what the advice is, but you can accept the advice or reject the advice as to whether or not to give this instruction. If you would like, I can read this instruction to the jury. It's titled, Defendant's Right Not to Testify. The state must convince you by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crime charged. The defendant has no obligation to prove innocence. The defendant has the right not to testify. This right is guaranteed by the federal and state constitutions. You should not draw any inference from the fact that the defendant has not testified in this case. Do you understand that instruction?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you like that read to the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had enough time to talk to Mr. Nelson about whether that's a good idea or not?
I have, Your Honor.
All right. And so I will read that to the jury on your request.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else regarding the defense case before we proceed to talk about rebuttal? All right, we'll have you rest in front of the jury then, and we could actually take the microphone back. Ms. Voss, thank you. Thank you. We'll have you rest in front of the jury, Mr. Nelson. With regard to the state's rebuttal, it's my understanding that the state is going to call a rebuttal witness. Is that correct?
It is, Your
Honor. Okay. Whoever's going to speak to this, if we can kind of outline the topics, and if you wanted to address formally the decision regarding this newly discovered evidence. Sure.
So there could be essentially another witness for this out of this rebuttal thing. That was sort of what was talked about yesterday, so I'm not surprised this is happening. But yeah, that's it. The defense is rested. It's defense. So, the judge had said earlier, closing arguments on Monday, but it sounds like that might get moved up because after the rebuttal, what else left is there except closing arguments, I think, right? Seems like that would be the case. I'm not a lawyer, but...
Okay. Mr. Blackwell?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Counsel.
I was told in chambers that there was some newly discovered evidence that the state wished to present in rebuttal regarding carbon monoxide testing. Would you tell me what that was?
Yes, Your Honor. We have blood gas evidence from Hennepin County that would contain blood gas readings for the carbon monoxide content in Mr. Floyd's blood on May 25th of 2020.
All right. And when was it discovered? How was it discovered? Why was it not disclosed earlier?
It was discovered yesterday by Dr. Baker. And what had precipitated it, Your Honor, was a piece of new evidence. It was a disclosure that came from the stand during the testimony of Dr. Fowler. And I want to show Your Honor exactly what it was. It was in one of the slides that Your Honor can see here if I adjust the camera. And what I'm referring to, Judge, is this very last reading here on the bottom, where from the stand and the slide that Mr. Nelson prepared was the statement and the discussion that in 7 minutes, Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%. Now, that was a new opinion. The word carboxyhemoglobin does not appear in the 31 pages of Dr. Fowler's report at all, nor a discussion about the carboxyhemoglobin content in his blood. Now, the concept of carbon monoxide was raised in the report, but not blood gas issues related to it. It was sort of discussed in the same context of sort of taking drugs through the rectum and other things that were raised generally, but not a specific reference to the carboxyhemoglobin content in Mr. Floyd's blood. Dr. Baker heard the testimony, had not himself ever requested this, nor had the ER physicians. They explained that when somebody's brought in and blood gases are taken, there's a panel of them that are taken. The ones that get generated in the records would be the ones that the ER physicians actually request. Nobody requested carbon monoxide readings because they didn't see how that was relevant, frankly. And no one had until this testimony yesterday that was specific to the carboxyhemoglobin content of the blood and set it at 10 to 18%. Now, Judge Cahill, what everybody did have access to would be the flip side of the equation. There was information on the arterial blood gas content that showed the oxygen saturation content in Mr. Floyd's blood, and the oxygen saturation was at 98%, which meant necessarily, to the extent there was any carbon monoxide in the blood, it would be at most 2%. This was the takeaway that Dr. Tobin had yesterday from this new disclosure, and we disclosed that to counsel, that would be something that Dr. Tobin could address based on information that everybody did have available. Dr. Baker simply then addressed the flip side of it. Was there a reading or measurement specifically on the carbon monoxide in light of this testimony from Dr. Fowler from the stand yesterday on carboxyhemoglobin content and the slide which Mr. Nelson introduced?
Well, let me clarify one thing. When was the test actually run?
It was run the night of May 25th when George Floyd was brought in.
And you did subpoena all the records of Hennepin County Medical Center?
We did subpoena all the records.
And what they provided to you did not have that in it?
That's right, Your Honor.
Did Dr. Baker spontaneously call you to tell you that there might be something deep within the computer records that
Yes,
was
Your
not
Honor.
disclosed? Or did you seek him out and ask him for his?
We did not seek him out and ask anything. He had heard the testimony and thought that this record might exist because he thought that, well, he was aware that there's a panel of the tests that are run by the machine, and then those that would go to the ER physicians would be the ones that they request to see the values on. So, but we did not contact him. It was the other way around.
And we're talking about carboxyhemoglobin readings. Is there also anything as part of that specifically about carbon monoxide concentrations?
Yeah, the carboxyhemoglobin reading would show the carbon monoxide concentrations, Your Honor, and the record, fortunately mine has my markings on it, but it would return a value for the carbon monoxide content and then would show whether or not that result is in the normal range or not. And that would be the reading in the readout from the test results.
All right. And so it specifically say carbon monoxide.
Well, it gives the letter symbols for it. So it would, if there's a clean copy.
What specifically does it say? Maybe you could just read it off the record.
It says specifically in the oximetry values, it says F, C, O, and then H, lowercase b, 1.5%, and then it gives the normal range of 0 to 2.0% as the normal range. It indicates on the record also a name for Mr. Floyd. For this record, it would be last name Bronze and first name Tennessee, because at the time the tests were run, they didn't know that it was George Floyd.
I note on Dr. Fowler's report that was disclosed to the state in February that on page 15 at the top it says, if there is a defect in the vehicle, this gas will be present, or if a person is close to the exhaust. For completeness, Mr. Floyd's blood CO level should be tested. So the state received that part of Dr. Fowler's report back in February. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Blackwell, before I turn to Mr. Nelson?
Your Honor, no, nothing further.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, for the record, in terms of rebuttal, a couple of things I would like to address. First is this new information that was just received. I would, for the record, indicate that I received these test results at 7:53 this morning. As I understand it, Dr. Fowler is on an airplane and having some difficulty reaching him at this particular moment. I have spoken with other people from the forensics panel. They're looking into these things. Nevertheless, Your Honor, the point of this is that this issue was specifically raised, as the court points out, back on February 22nd, some 20-some odd days, or 40-some 60 days. I don't even know how long it's been. I'm a little time deprived at this point. The point being is that the state has had more than sufficient notice. Dr. Fowler is opining that this could have played a role in his report. He says and suggests that for completeness, it should have been tested or should be tested. The state retained and continues to retain any blood samples. They are not within the control of the defense. The state has had ample opportunity to rebut any suggestion. As far as the information relevant to the Mr. Blackwell references in terms of the oxygen levels, the 98% oxygen levels, what Dr. Fowler testified to yesterday was how you can't rely on the oxygen levels because it's the carbon monoxide binds to the oxygen and it can give a false reading. You need this hypoxy testing, the hypoxy oxygen testing. So the bottom line is that this is information that has been within the state's control. The state has had ample notice that this could have played a part of Dr. Fowler's testimony. It is incredibly prejudicial to the defense at this point, now after Dr. Fowler has testified and left the state, to bring forth evidence. Again, the jury being the trier of the fact, Dr. Fowler was pretty clear. He was not saying that this was the cause of death. He's simply opining that it wasn't considered by the state. And apparently it was considered to be a ridiculous concept by the state of Minnesota that they didn't think to test it. Since this trial has started, in addition to this new evidence, the state has had multiple conversations with a city employee about the vehicle itself. They've gone and taken pictures of the vehicle. Again, all of this they've had ample opportunity to do, but this is what they're doing in the middle of trial, even though they've known for a long time that this was an issue. I did receive also last evening a summary of Dr. Tobin's anticipated rebuttal points that 3 of the 4 points I do not see as proper rebuttal, but we can address that later.
Well, let's address that now, as long as I'll ask the state to respond to something other than your carbon monoxide issue.
Yep. So last night I received a one-page memorandum referencing a conference that they had with Dr. Tobin. It's date stamp 50417. They identify 4 areas of potential rebuttal. The first being that Dr. Tobin will testify regarding the significance of the hypoxic changes from a physiology and clinical standpoint, including his conclusion that the anoxic seizure is not indicative of a primary cardiac event based on the timeline of significant events. I believe that Dr. Tobin has already extensively testified as to his opinion of the significance of the anoxic seizure. I mean, that formed a large basis of his testimony and how he concluded that. Now, the fact that there is a differing opinion that it's a cardiac event instead of a hypoxic event that's the nature. Again, state has had ample notice. It's not rebutting. It's just simply reintroducing what Dr. Tobin has already testified to extensively.
Well, my recollection of Dr. Fowler's testimony is that he agreed that it's a hypoxic reaction. But it's just the mechanism. I think we're talking about the mechanism. Was it due to a positional asphyxia
Correct, Your Honor. Correct.
versus cardiac arrhythmia? But I think they all agreed that it was a myoclonic seizure as a reaction to hypoxia.
Agreed, Your Honor, but the mechanism being the point of what Dr. Tobin has already extensively testified to.
Right.
And the fact that Dr. Fowler had a different opinion, this is not proper rebuttal because it's already been testified to at length. What the mechanism of the seizure was has already been opined by Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
The second area that Dr. Tobin has indicated is he said Dr. Tobin will testify regarding the scientific research supportive of his analysis that showed how the hypopharynx can be narrowed. Again, I believe that he has already extensively testified to his position as to the narrowing of the hypopharynx. Whatever this additional research is, I have been provided with a single journal article relevant to the treatment of COVID patients that was provided to me last night as well. If it's limited to that single article, I guess that could be construed to be additional evidence. But again, Dr. Tobin extensively testified as to his view of the narrowing of the hypopharynx. The third area is what is written as follows. Dr. Tobin has reviewed and will testify as to his analysis of the two studies of that Dr. Fowler cited regarding outdoor exposure to carbon monoxide. Dr. Fowler testified that Mr. Floyd could have had a level of 10 to 18% carboxyhemoglobin as reflected in the slides disclosed on 413, and that in his opinion this level could have contributed to Mr. Floyd's cardiac-induced death. Dr. Tobin will rebut this analysis and provide his opinion that based on lab tests done at the emergency department, Dr. Fowler's analysis does not hold. So this email being sent at 4:53 p.m. last night, or approximately 5 o'clock last night, suggests that Dr. Tobin may have seen these test results, or the test results done at the emergency. There's no indication, is it these new test results or is it some other test result? Nevertheless, it's our position that these new test results should not go in front of the jury, first and foremost. And second, if they were, I would be moving for a mistrial based on this, because again, the state has had ample notice. Finally, Your Honor, the fourth paragraph reads, in his report regarding the size of Mr. Floyd's heart, Dr. Fowler cited two studies, the Molina and DeMaio study and the Northwestern study from 2021. However, Dr. Fowler did not cite the Mayo study that he referenced in direct examination, and he did not offer the opinion that Mr. Floyd had an enlarged heart. Dr. Tobin will clarify the facts underlying these studies and their application to Mr. Floyd. Again, this is the very nature of our system, right? There's an opinion and there's a counter opinion that we both. Dr. Tobin has already cited this study. He has talked about this study. He acknowledged the existence of the other studies. So this is not proper rebuttal because it's already been testified to. They're trying to recreate and get Dr. Tobin in front of the jury again to talk about things he's already talked about. The CO2, fair enough, right, to some limited extent based upon, Dr. Fowler's testimony.
Mr. Blackwell, let's talk about those other, aside from the lab tests, those 4 points that the state is seeking to present rebuttal.
Obviously, Your Honor, we wouldn't be having any of these discussions this morning had there not been new opinions from Dr. Fowler raised from the stand. And one of those new opinions, and one which I think I was objecting to at the time, was his discussion of the Mayo study. This had to do with the whole issue of the enlarged heart, the cardiomegaly. And he had disclosed to us his reliance on Molina and DeMaio and also the Northwestern study that was in this report. And as Your Honor well knows, the whole point of having reports and disclosures for both sides is so that both sides have notice for what's going to be testified to on the stand. So he testified about the Mayo study anyway. He expressed his opinions about the Mayo study. It was a free kick at the goal because we didn't know that he was going there.
What study again? Could you spell that one? Because I'm mixing up DeMaio and...
Yeah, the Mayo study is M-A-Y-O. It's as though it should be pronounced Mayo.
Okay.
And what Dr. Tobin would talk about would be that particular study and the fact that in the opinions that Dr. Fowler had presented in his report, he didn't offer the opinion that Mr. Floyd had an enlarged heart. He offered it from the stand. He didn't offer it in his report. And had we known at the time from the disclosures that that's what he was going to testify to, then we would have addressed it during his testimony, during his direct, when he was here before.
Well, let me ask you. So, what specifically do you want Dr. Tobin to testify to regarding an enlarged heart?
He will simply testify that if you then look at the overall studies, including the Mayo study that we've been talking about, that Mr. Floyd's heart weight does not fall within a range that is abnormal. So he'll talk about the broader sort of pool of studies in the framework of discussing the Mayo study that we had learned about, at least that Dr. Fowler was going to rely on in his testimony.
I guess one question I have is, he's the pulmonologist, he's not the cardiologist. Are you recalling your cardiologist to talk about the enlarged heart and give an opinion about an enlarged heart?
No, Your Honor, just the pulmonologist. Okay. And obviously there's a cardiopulmonary system, and they both kind of operate kind of hand in glove. So we felt, frankly, in the interest and respect in Your Honor's admonition, that we try to be focused substantively and temporally, sure, to simply call one person to talk about this and not multiple ones.
All right. Okay. What about the other?
On the issue of the hypoxia, for the first time from the stand, we heard from Dr. Fowler that an anoxic seizure was evidence of a primary cardiac event. Your Honor is right in what Your Honor had understood, that both sides do understand kind of what happens when you have an hypoxia event and how one passes away. What we had not heard was Dr. Fowler attributing it to a primary cardiac event. That was not in this report, and it was disclosed for the first time from the stand. And as well as relates to the hypopharynx, that was crystal clear from the stand that Dr. Fowler said, having heard Dr. Tobin testify, I went out to canvass the literature and I found nothing there supportive of his theories for somebody who has studied the science of breathing for 46 years. So what Dr. Fowler would testify there is what is the nature of the research in that respect, in direct response to the new statement from Dr. Fowler from the stand.
Let's talk about the opinion regarding the carbon monoxide effect and Dr. Tobin's opinion, which would appear to be within the scope of his expertise as a pulmonologist. But is it going to be solely talking about the lab tests?
It is solely talking about the carbon monoxide content of his blood, Your Honor, and I don't want to try to answer the court's question as clearly as I can.
No, go ahead.
It isn't just talking about the test results. The test results are subsumed in it, but the bottom line of what he's talking about is what is the evidence as to whether or not the carboxyhemoglobin content, the carbon monoxide content of his blood, could have been in the range of up to 15%. And he's saying that based upon the medical evidence available, that was available to everybody, looking purely at the oxygen.
What was available to everybody?
The oxygen saturation content of his blood.
Okay.
And contrary to counsel's comment on the science, the way that the oxygen saturation works We have hemoglobin, so either the oxygen is going to combine with the hemoglobin or carbon monoxide will. And if carbon monoxide has bound to it, then you can't have an oxygen saturation of 98%.
I understood the testimony.
So that is what he would speak to. The test results are merely corroborative of that, because the test results show a specific testing for carbon monoxide itself, and it isn't simply derived from looking at the oxygen saturation content, which is at 98%, and therefore the most carbon monoxide could have been is 2%. So it is addressing the same issue from the two different perspectives: oxygen saturation versus actual testing in the test results of the carbon monoxide itself.
Well, I agree with you that if the tests had been disclosed earlier before Dr. Fowler testified, there'd be no problem with putting that in his rebuttal. Probably there would have been no need, because Dr. Fowler would have been advised of the results and testified accordingly. So there would have been no need for rebuttal. So, but other than that, so are those the four topics, though? Did counsel set those out pretty clearly?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right. First of all, in dealing with these lab test results, I find that Dr. Fowler's report gave sufficient notice to the state that the carbon monoxide that potentially was in George Floyd's blood could have affected cause of death. I read page 15 of his report, which I don't have at my fingertips at this point, that basically they said Dr. Fowler came right out and said it should be tested. That gave the state notice with sufficient time in February to either test the samples that are still there or to dig a little deeper. It's just by serendipity that Dr. Baker calls the state and says, oh, by the way, it does exist. It should be in there. It seems to me very odd. I'm not claiming any bad faith on the state's part, but it seems odd that Hennepin County Medical Center, when they're asked to turn over all their records, that they don't include records that maybe are just buried a little deeper. I think their response to the subpoena was probably insufficient in and of itself. And they should check their standard operating procedures so that in the event this happens again, that they will supply all the information they have. But in any case, the defense gave notice that this was going to be an issue and specifically talked about testing the sample. The state had sufficient time to investigate and disclose, to, even if it's just because Dr. Baker called the state and said, we can actually find this, at 8 o'clock this morning, when the state is, or the defense expert is done testifying, has left the state. It's untimely to give the notice, and it prejudiced the defense by the late disclosure, even if it's not due to bad faith. But the late disclosure has prejudiced the defense. It's not going to be allowed. So Dr. Tobin will not be allowed to testify as to those lab results. If there's anything he wished to add about carbon monoxide as far as environmental factors, but if he even hints that there are test results that the jury has not heard about, it's going to be a mistrial. Pure and simple. This late disclosure is not the way we should be operating here. In that case, Dr. Tobin may testify as to carbon monoxide if he sticks to the environmental factors, and as a pulmonologist, looking at the videos, for example, and seeing Mr. Floyd's location and not knowing whether the vehicle is even on or not, which the state brought out in cross-examination. All those factors he can talk about environmentally and what the likelihood is that it would affect his carbon monoxide concentration in Mr. Floyd's blood, that's fine. But nothing about these lab test results that were just disclosed 8 a.m. this morning after the defense expert is done. With regard to the DeMaio, I will allow, I have a little concern that we're having a pulmonologist opine whether it's an enlarged heart or not. But given his background, which, as I think Mr. Blackwell appropriately stated, is a cardiopulmonary system, it is a system, and I think he has some expertise in the function of the heart and its relation to the lungs. And so I think it is appropriate that he be allowed to opine whether or not the heart was enlarged or not, based on those studies, and specifically responding to those studies. As far as the scientific research, the defense did bring up as a new issue whether or not narrowing of the hypopharynx is supported in literature, and Dr. Fowler said he did a check and he didn't find anything. I think it is permissible that Dr. Tobin be allowed to come and say, since Dr. Fowler's testimony, he has done his own search, or he relied on this, and there is literature, and he can talk about the literature in a summary fashion. With regard to the hypoxic seizure, it was pretty clear from Dr. Tobin's testimony that he had an opinion that there were movements of George Floyd's legs, that those were myoclonic or anoxic seizures due to the lack of oxygen. Dr. Fowler did not really dispute that. He also indicated that it was a lack of oxygen to the brain that causes such seizures. The only difference between the two was the mechanism. Did the lack of oxygen, was that caused by positional asphyxia versus cardiac arrhythmia? And as I recall, Dr. Tobin excluded cardiac arrhythmia or a cardiac event as the cause of the lack of oxygen. Since he has excluded a cardiac event as the cause of the lack of oxygen, that evidence is already in the record. I don't have to remind both sides that the purpose of rebuttal evidence is not to restate what has already been testified to. It's to bring up new evidence to rebut something that came up in the other side's case. Accordingly, as to the hypoxic seizure, that's not going to be allowed. The scientific research supporting hypopharynx narrowing will be allowed. The lab tests are not allowed to be discussed, but Dr. Tobin can talk about carbon monoxide and the likelihood of a high carbon monoxide reading based on environmental factors if he wishes, because that was gone into a great extent. And finally, the reports, and he may opine whether, in his opinion, George Floyd's heart was enlarged or not. Do we have pretty much the ground rules set?
Just one question for clarification on the carbon monoxide. There were test results that existed before the ones that are at issue from last night/this morning. What Dr. Tobin, these are the ones that relate to the oxygen saturation. So that was known before last night. And so I haven't talked to Dr. Tobin this morning about what he's going to say or when. I might ask the court for a few minutes before we start. But what he was able to come to last night without saying anything at all related to these test results at issue was we had the results already, both sides do, on the oxygen saturation in his blood from May 25th, 2020.
Well, let me ask you this. Is his opinion going to be that when the oxygen saturation levels are this high, that precludes high CO, because a high carbon monoxide reading would depress the saturated oxygen?
That's correct. They are would be inversely related. So a high oxygen saturation
would indicate a low carbon monoxide.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
As I understood Dr. Fowler's testimony, at lower levels of carbon monoxide, because the pulse oximeter it's not going to differentiate based on the color of the blood between oxygen and carbon monoxide.
This is the bright cherry red testimony.
Correct.
I think that's appropriate cross, but I think if that is in fact Dr. Tobin's opinion that these oxygen saturation readings, which have been disclosed earlier, would indicate a low carbon monoxide reading because they are inversely proportional, and it's appropriate, however, to say those readings are based on pulse ox, color of the blood, color of the fingernail, and the bright cherry red, essentially confronting him with that testimony, I think is appropriate cross, but it does not preclude the state from recalling Dr. Tobin for that purpose.
Yep, that's the clarification, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be permitted. All right, anything else before? And you want a few minutes to talk to Dr. Tobin?
If I may, Your Honor.
Why don't we start up at 10 o'clock? I assume he's close by. You could do it quickly, Mr. Blackwell.
I was hoping for a few more minutes.
I think since the defense is going to rest and you'll proceed directly to Dr. Tobin, are we calling anybody else?
No one else, Your Honor. And if we could have to 10:15.
10:15 it is. All right, 10:15 we'll reconvene. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Dan at Unicorn Riot. We just saw the defense rest a moment ago. So essentially, some kind of hemoglobin data got discovered that the Hennepin County Medical Center had missed, which has some bearing on what Dr. Fowler talked about for the defense yesterday. And that it seemed like there wasn't carbon monoxide evidence, and Fowler claimed that the truck or the squad car had been running, but that wasn't seemingly even true, came up in cross-examination. There's a lot of stuff that got raised in cross-examination yesterday. It was pretty interesting, but what they're saying is Dr. Tobin, who's the witness for the prosecution and is an expert in respiratory science, what they're saying is that he can come back and give some limited testimony, but the judge threatened an immediate mistrial if Dr. Tobin mentions that this data turned up at Hennepin County Medical Center, and he said it wasn't bad faith on the part of the state, but it was, pretty ridiculous that they didn't discover this evidence and get it turned over, because it is true that obviously the evidence should have been turned over. And again, it's worth noting, right, that part of what Judge Cahill has to try to do is prevent, appeals, reversals, mistrials. Like, he is, supposed to generate a case or a trial that doesn't just fall apart and get reversed and disintegrate. So that's I would assume part of the reason why he rules this kind of way. But it does indicate that we will be hearing more from Tobin starting in 15 minutes or so. So that's going on. So yeah, carbon monoxide. What a weird tangent at the very end. Yes, they were saying that the claim from Fowler, which didn't have blood evidence, was that carbon monoxide would have messed up George Floyd's circulatory system. But, as commenters kind of pointed out, if that was the case, then the police officers would have gotten dizzy probably, right? And so forth. So that was a pretty strange tangent that happened yesterday about carbon monoxide. Again, carbon monoxide is a combustion product that can come off of tailpipes and certainly, kill people, cause strange medical problems. A friend of mine had a leaking carbon monoxide tailpipe, and he had a lot of strange symptoms from it. And so that's separate from carbon dioxide, which is a more common product. Basically, carbon monoxide kind of makes it so oxygen can't bind in your blood properly. It sort of displaces the correct oxygen carrying. That's why it's so fatally dangerous. That's the story of carbon monoxide. All right. So we got 13 minutes, give or take, as they go get Dr. Tobin and try to outline that if Dr. Tobin says something else about this data, then it would go right to mistrial. That's pretty intense. Again, thanks for joining us. We're live on YouTube, on Twitter, live on Facebook. Thank you all for tuning in, for sharing our work, letting people know what we're up to. Our Unicorn Riot website, we've been updating the trial page. Alex has been rocking the tweets today to kind of summarize things, so you can get quick summaries from the tweets. The trial page is here. So we've tried to cut loose at least some stories, not just about this trial, but police policy, stuff like that. our contributor Sam Richards has a perfectly clear explanation of how U2 can detect hidden FBI aircraft using an air traffic detector. Our contributor Merjan Sadar has a series, 21st Century Jim Crow and the North Star City, the Downtown Dark Alliance, talking about, especially back in the years of the Ryback administration, how Target and the city worked to build a bigger surveillance grid downtown. One of the trends that sort of led to the current situation we're in. Way back and during jury selection, which feels like a long time ago, we talked about the Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter in the jury questionnaire, which really created a highly politicized situation, and that led to a lot of people that might have been more sympathetic to the state's case getting dismissed, and and a small number of people sympathetic to Chauvin and sympathetic to Blue Lives Matter also getting dismissed. But it was interesting because those jury questionnaires, as we talked about with Michelle Gross, that who gets put on the jury really has a lot to do with how the case goes. And in Hennepin County, it's usually really white juries a lot of the time, and the way the questionnaire worked, helped determine that. So, the jury deliberation is going to be starting soon, so we'll see how that goes. We've been following the unrest after police in Brooklyn Center killed Daunte Wright on Sunday afternoon, and there's been days and days of protests. The weather's been really tough. It's basically Minnesota third winter again, and so we were out there last night with a new video camera and following what was happening there. And there have been, curfews this week. We don't know yet about what curfews there might be tonight. We'll see. In not just in Minneapolis, but these suburbs, we'll find out. That officer Kim Potter got charged second-degree manslaughter. The guidelines for second-degree manslaughter are guideline is 48 months for guideline, according to Mary Moriarty. There's a larger maximum, but that would be 2/3 of that would be in jail, 1/3 in parole. Oh yes, and we have that's a good point. So yeah, among the other stories that we have was a sort of a 2-week summary of the jury selection process, and I'll go back to that. Because this was a lot of data to put together. This one, race and perception, the first 2 weeks of the Chauvin sort of pretrial period. I should mention that, yes, that Alex put that together. There was so much detail there, right? Like there was a lot of stuff happening day to day in that process. So that story is right down there on the front page. Definitely worth mentioning. Thank you, Alex. And let's see. So, we've again, with Unicorn Riot, like we've tried to sort of bring up like the more long-standing policy issues, stuff like the and the justice families, right? Like this press conference with all these other families, they've been trying to get more meetings with politicians, trying to meet with the governor, and so forth, and and they've been kind of shut out of the process at different levels. So we had that press conference before this phase of the trial started. We're keeping an eye on federal charges. The federal prosecutors, we know that FBI, ATF, DOJ, U.S. Attorney's Office, all of that stuff's been up in the air as well. So while in this case the state seems to be quote unquote on the side of the people, there's going to be other legal proceedings which won't have video cameras, which will really show that the state is definitely still interested in keeping its own narrative going. And we're going to try to keep, hitting the analysis on those points. So keep an eye on the Fed level. Another thing that happened in parallel to this trial, controversy over Andy Lugar being potentially nominated for U.S. Attorney's Office, an ally of U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar. Lugar seen as controversial by a lot of community groups because he helped run and direct what you could call counterintelligence programs, the Countering Violent Extremism program, paying community organizations for effectively information, as sort of a counterinsurgency template. So the Andy Lugar thing, definitely worth paying analysis attention to. We saw that happening. There was a whole press conference. We've been referring back to this a lot because of the uprising stuff in Brooklyn Center. Our coverage about the Field Force Operations Tactics Training Manual. Again, if you're watching not just in Brooklyn Center, but elsewhere in the United States, you see kind of the same tactics, the same weapons, the same chemicals, used in a lot of places, and this sort of thing is really a very solid Rosetta Stone. So we had that in 2016. We got it through a FOIA. You know, apart from our live streams, we really do a lot of work and FOIA requests, research, understanding the structures, you know, and then so we work on that when we're not going live. And this story has just been super helpful because it's helped be a template for understanding field force operations and the array of arsenals of weapons and so forth. We have a story from from January. Nico and I wrote this. Sam Richards, contributor, helped as well, about how J. Cole's KSTP Channel 5 reporter has tried to discredit social movements over the years, working with police, using draft Minneapolis Police Department reports, draft police reports in the computer system. The police give those to Coles so that they can try to discredit activists. So Coles will go on Garage Logic with Joe Souchere, demonize individual activists. We hear from some of those activists, like Marsha Howard, in this story, and that was sort of a media analysis piece about the discrediting process in the corporate media in the Twin Cities. Still waiting for this to come back. 6 minutes left here. Thanks for tuning in. You know, obviously there's been, you know, again, we keep an eye on the aviation game, the State Patrol spy plane situation. This is N115SP, this State Patrol plane that has infrared, that has powerful capabilities, and we just sort of wanted to highlight that because that plane's been up and around again. So we wanted to highlight that, bring you the data about that plane. We got that, again, Minnesota Data Practices Act request there. So, you know, we've been looking over the last couple of years about the bad training practices that lead to more police violence, the Bulletproof Warrior training. This stuff was things we covered in 2018, analyzing those, and that's definitely been informative. Or one of our former members wrote about how Lieutenant Rugel created social media sock puppets through the Strategic Information Center. Again, that was another sort of FOIA request type investigation that we did, sort of showing, you know, how they use sock puppets to spy on social movements, and that's where your Minneapolis tax dollars go. Okay, so I'm going to run these clips for another, 5 minutes here. We'll go back to last night's footage from Brooklyn Center as we await Dr. Tobin coming back in for a rebuttal. So that, all right. Someone who says they taught constitutional law does not think there'll be a mistrial. I guess that's encouraging. Thank you for the chats. Thank you for respectful chats. It's been a lot for all of us to learn about, to try to get a handle on. We do really appreciate that. So thank you all for joining us. We're waiting for court to come back in a few minutes. It seems like Dr. Tobin is coming back. Thank you all.
Police are shooting. Police are pepper spraying and shooting marker rounds at them. People are just standing on the front with umbrellas. They're getting pepper sprayed. Some more munitions happening. Police are shooting marker rounds. They're bouncing off of things. Pepper spray. People are protecting themselves with umbrellas. This is Hennepin County Sheriff's right here. Hennepin County Sheriff's here, and if you go to our Twitter feed, _ninja, we have more about the Hennepin County Sheriffs and sort of their past of quelling, attempting to quell resistance towards either fossil fuel extraction projects the tar sands project like No Dapple. Hennepin County sheriffs were sent out to North Dakota to police protesters who were holding space, seeking the non-completion of the Dakota Access Pipeline. Hennepin County Sheriff's Department is run by Mike Hutchinson. He is the incident commander of the Unified Command out here in the West Metro. And for Operation Safety Net, which is in its third phase here in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis and other cities have National Guard stationed at different spots. Seems like they're coming around 7 p.m. to set up in different locations and then leaving around 3:30. That's what we've seen so far yesterday. They said they've enacted Phase 3. Phase 3 is Phase 3 of Operation Safety Net again, which was revolving around how they're going to police the protests after George Floyd and during the trial and after the trial of Derek Chauvin. It's a person that came up to the front.
Back up! Yo, get back! What's his name? What's his name? Daunte Wright! Daunte Wright! Daunte Wright! Daunte Wright! Who are you here for? Daunte Wright! Who are you here for? Daunte Wright! Who are you here for? Daunte Wright! What's his name? Daunte Wright! I said, what's his name? Daunte Wright! I said, what's his name? Daunte Wright! I said, what's his name? Daunte Wright! Who are you here for? Daunte Wright! Who are you here for? Daunte Wright! I said, who are you here for? Daunte Wright! Let's go! Daunte Wright!
Suck our dick! Yeah! I hope you're crying right now! Bitch! Fuck you! Hey! Look at me! Hey! You can't do shit! Fuck you, bitch! Fuck you! Yeah!
Actively trying to hurt you. Why do you use rape people? Someone told you to?
Police continue to pepper spray people in the front. They're not doing anything. They're sort of just sitting there with their umbrellas to protect themselves from the pepper spray.
At the same time that you guys are doing
Fuck you!
exist simultaneously.
Pigs! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you! You're a bitch! Fuck you! Fuck you! Hey, do you know what a gun looks like, you bitch? Fuck you! Hey, what's a taser look like, you bitch? You fucking bastard! You guys are killers!
Back up! Back up! Yo, all the photographers on the clothes, back up! It's agitating things. Back up! Stop! Yo, he literally asked you to back up! Stop! Yo, you're literally right of the front of it. Yeah, you're doing fine.
Hey, another life is not going to be lost here. It's not going to happen. Another life is not going to be lost. We just lost another life. We just lost a life. Don't forget that. We just lost a life. A young family life having fucking because of these guys. Hey! But we ain't gonna lose a life here. We lost the life. Hey! We lost the life. Don't get me while we out here. Fuck that. Hey, we're not going. Hey! Hey! If you don't want to be here, hey, you go home. You go home. Hey! What's his name? 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 Why are we out here? Why are we out here? Why are we out here? That's my fucking problem. Don't forget that. Don't lose focus in why we are out here. Don't lose focus in the mission and why we out here. We're talking about we are tired of these fatalities that has been happening. That's why. We just lost a brother. We lost a father. We lost a son. And damn it, we're not losing another one tonight. We're not going to lose another one tonight. Over some dumb shit. We here because we just lost a life. Families are hurting in this motherfucker. Hey! No peace! Abolish the police! Justice, no peace! Abolish the police!
All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Mr. Nelson.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense rests.
Thank you. Mr. Blackwell, does the state have rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Your Honor, counsel, ladies and gentlemen. The state will recall to the stand Dr. Martin Tobin. In just one moment, Your Honor.
Not a problem.
So Dr. Tobin, they went over it. He'll be allowed to address some of the science issues. But he can't talk about the new data that they found at the County Medical Center or the reopened trial.
Dr. Tobin, since we are recalling you, I'm going to swear you in again. Yep. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have a seat again. And just for the record, if you could restate your name and if you feel comfortable, take the mask off.
My name is Martin Tobin.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Tobin.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you for rejoining us. Got just a few follow-up questions to ask you in rebuttal. But first, just so you're introduced to the jury, you're a pulmonologist.
Correct. Lung specialist. Yeah.
Critical care physician.
Yeah, intensive care doctor.
And you've studied the physiology of breathing for 46 years.
Correct. Yeah.
I want to first ask you about the issue of Mr. Floyd's potential exposure to carbon monoxide.
Yes.
Were you able to hear testimony regarding this yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to see this particular slide in the highlighted statement at the bottom? In 7 minutes, Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%.
Correct. Yeah, I saw that.
Would you first just tell us right off the bat, do you agree with that proposition that's highlighted there?
No, I do not.
Now, would you tell us what carboxyhemoglobin is?
Yeah. Carboxyhemoglobin is when the carbon monoxide combines with the protein in a blood that's called the hemoglobin. And so it's the combination of the carbon monoxide and that protein in the blood.
And why is carboxyhemoglobin, again, important?
It's important because when the carbon monoxide binds to the hemoglobin, it displaces the oxygen off the hemoglobin. So you need the oxygen on the hemoglobin. You don't want the carboxy, and it takes it over.
Then do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether this statement that Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18% is reliable?
No, I believe it is not reliable.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen why that statement is not reliable?
I base it on the arterial blood gas that was obtained when Mr. Floyd was in Hennepin County.
Please sidebar.
So again, what they decided in this morning motion discussion was that the new data at Hennepin County Medical Center isn't admissible. So basically probably what they're talking about here on the sidebar is like how to not get into that while addressing the data that was already introduced. So it's real touchy. We're right at the edge here. It's interesting. But again, there was already data. Like he's referring to what he just said referred to the data, the old data, the data that's already been gone over. He wasn't he didn't say anything about the new data. I didn't hear that there. So just to clear that up, I'm pretty sure that's what we just. I don't think that this is. I don't think he referred to the new data. So I think obviously a lot of the chatters don't see it that way, but. This is not. He can refer to the old data. That's not the issue at all. I just want to be clear on that. Like as far as I can tell. So just take a breather, everyone. We're gonna don't assume he mentioned the new data when he didn't. Is what I'm trying to say. It is a tightrope, yes. So thanks for joining us. We're on day 26. It's been a long trial. This is gonna be the last witness. After closing arguments.
I think the objection should be sustained, but just rephrase the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Tobin, as you prepare to tell us why these results, in your opinion, are not reliable, could you please help the jury to understand something about oxygen saturation testing in the blood?
Right. So if you have, like was done in Mr. Floyd, when he went to Hennepin County, he had an arterial blood gas obtained. So that's sticking a needle into the artery at the wrist, and you take out the blood. And then on the blood gas measurements, you measure a number of different items on that, like the pressure of oxygen in the blood, the pressure of carbon dioxide, the amount of acid in the blood, called the pH, and you get all these different measurements, and you also get the oxygen saturation, and that is how much of the hemoglobin, the protein in the blood that carries the oxygen, how much of that hemoglobin is saturated with oxygen. And we know in Mr. Floyd that it was 98% saturated.
So 98% saturated with oxygen?
With oxygen when they measured it in Hennepin County. And that was 9/16, the time frame.
So if we know that there's an oxygen saturation of 98%, does that tell us anything whatsoever?
Yes,
about
I'm sorry, I interrupt. I apologize.
Does that tell us anything whatsoever about what the carbon monoxide content could have been at a maximum.
Yes, it does. It tells us that if the hemoglobin is saturated at 98%, it tells you all there was for everything else is 2%, and so the maximum amount of carbon monoxide would be 2%. It tells you the maximum amount of carboxyhemoglobin. That was what was mentioned yesterday. The maximum amount is 2%. It doesn't even tell you that it is 2%. It could be something else. But 2% of carboxyhemoglobin is within the normal range. You and I have levels of carboxyhemoglobin of somewhere between 0 and 3.
And so in other words, as to the statement that his carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%, in your view, that's not possible.
It's simply wrong.
And it was at most 2%.
At most 2%.
Normal.
Which is normal.
New subject to discuss with you. You might recall, if you were listening to the testimony, my discussing with Dr. Fowler the hypopharynx.
Yes, I remember.
And you might recall I spent some time asking him about what research he had done on the potential for pressure on the back to narrow the hypopharynx.
Yeah, I recall that.
Do you recall him saying he had canvassed the literature and he could not find anything?
I'm sorry?
Do you recall him saying he had reviewed the research and that he could not find anything?
Yes, I recall him saying that.
Are you able to enlighten or give any information to the jury on the nature of the research on the hypopharynx and how it narrows with compression in the prone position?
Yeah. So, the research on this, which is extensive, is really in the scientific literature. It's in the physiological literature. And then that is applied over to clinical medicine. So the type of studies that are done are not really done in terms of ordinary clinical research. It's much more physiological, much more scientific of how the body works. And there's about probably at least a dozen, maybe 20 studies that show the relationship between how that if you lower the size of the lungs, you must get a decrease in the size of the hypopharynx. All of the studies show that.
And then are there studies then that look at whether the pressure on the neck narrows the hypopharynx?
No. Because when we do research, we try and do research on studies that might be puzzling, that you would be kind of expecting a bit of a surprise. If you think about sticking your fingers into your neck, you know you're going to narrow the hypopharynx. That's not kind of research that somebody is going to want to do. It's so common sense that you would know that that's going to happen. You can do it on yourself if you want. And as soon as you put pressure here, you can immediately sense that your upper airway is narrowing.
Dr. Tobin, that is all we wanted to clarify with you this morning.
Okay.
If I may have 2 minutes.
Sure. Let's do a stretch break in place.
I don't think we're getting audio yet. Hold on. We're all sort of waiting. It's a weird break. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're on day 26. Dr. Tobin just gave some rebuttals for the government, and we're waiting for the defense to do a little cross on him. And the defense already rested, so I think this is pretty much the end of things. Then we'll get closing arguments. Now it looks like they're on a sidebar. So Dr. Tobin was a witness for the state, just to clarify. Dr. Fowler was the defense witness, which is what these issues are about.
There's the jury. We're going to actually have a recess now until 1:45, so we'll reconvene at that time.
Okay, they just went to a break. Can someone say on the chat, I missed the timing on the break. Thank you. Someone just say what they said about the timing. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're on day 26 of the Derek Chauvin trial. We really appreciate your support. We've been streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter Live, and we are glad to have your support. They're coming back at 1:45. Thank you for the chatters for catching that. I missed that. So that'll be 11. So we'll go back and show some more live coverage from this unrest out in Brooklyn Center that's been happening after the police killed Daunte Wright on Sunday. Kim Potter's been charged with second-degree manslaughter, is now arrested. The Washington County attorney in the eastern Twin Cities suburbs, Pete Orput, is managing that case. I guess Pete Orput is affiliated with one of the police associations. I caught that. I think you can see it on his bio. That was a point people were raising. So yes. So we were looking at about a 10-minute break here. Thank you all for joining us. We'll go and take a look at that Brooklyn Center footage from last night from our reporter Nico. Thank you, everyone.
We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. What color? We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose.
Who lost the phone?
We're here
ahead. Trying to get through. Go ahead.
Murder charge! 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 What's his name? Daunte Wright! 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 Who we out here for? Daunte Wright! Who we out here for? Daunte Wright! What's his name? Daunte Wright! What's his name? Daunte Wright! Who we out here for? Daunte Wright! Who we out here for? Daunte Wright! What's his name? Daunte Wright! Hey!
Hey, how are you? What up? Move for justice. Move for justice. Move
for justice news. Thanks for coming out here. I had to take a night off yesterday just to recuperate and recharge, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So we'll go back out here tonight. So
good to see you again.
Good to see you. Take care, my brother.
Be safe.
Stay
You too.
safe.
Police are moving back to the front. Pepper spraying somebody. They just pepper sprayed Andre Friedman, who's out here as press. Are you all right? You just got sprayed. You all right?
Yeah.
The police made a move up, pepper sprayed Andre Friedman, and then moved back. Yep. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Be safe out here.
Don't touch me! Don't touch me! I can take care of myself! And I'm not a Christian, so get out of here! Don't touch me! Good?
All right.
No, I'm good.
On me!
As you can see, the crowd is very thick. A lot of people. Again, people are seeking justice for Daunte Wright.
What's up, people? Fuck
Hey,
the
what up?
police. I hate them. Abolish them all.
Say more?
Oh no, I just hate the police. They need to be abolished completely. This is the time. No more police. No, none of that. It's over. It's over for you. You got to take your shit.
And stop calling for justice. There's no justice in there. Abolish the police. They have got to stop fucking killing people.
They got to stop killing people. And as long as the police exist, they will continue to kill because that is their little job. There is no more. We need to stop this, stop, convict, no. They need to abolish and invest in, actual public safety, real public safety. Because fuck with this shit. Fuck with this shit.
Yeah, can you touch on more on the public safety? What are some...
Public safety is let me get it together real quick. Let me get it together. Real public motherfucking safety is addressing the root causes of crime. None of this shit. This police serve no fucking purpose but anti-black, colonialism, all of those things. We need to be fighting against all those systems of oppression. They aid the cops, the courts, all of them. Tired of them, they need to be abolished, like I've already said.
Put that money in the communities,
Period.
Put that money in schools, put that money in healthcare, and they need to go the fuck home.
Exactly.
Get a real job.
And stay out of my fucking community.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we're with the We Can't Breathe organization. Follow us on Facebook at We Can't Breathe. 12,000 strong on Facebook. We're going live right now. We had to make an appearance out here because black people in Minnesota were tired. People in Minnesota, people of color, Native American, Asian American, Latinx, everybody. We're tired of this. We're scared. We're traumatized. So we're out here for our kids. We're out here for our parents, for our loved ones, for our friends and family. And we're going to keep coming out every night until something changes. They're going to make an example out of these police officers because we're not going to keep standing up for this. We got children. We got everything. So, again, follow us at We Can't Breathe. And we're going to take care of ours at the end of the day. So, shout out Unicorn Media. Everybody at home, it's okay if you can't be out here. There's other ways to support. You don't have to be out here in the street. We understand y'all got families, y'all got people to protect, priorities. That's okay. There's other ways to support. You can support financially. You can donate clothes, food, donate your time. There's many things you can do to support. So appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and y'all stay safe. Black Lives Matter.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And, sorry, I had to come back for a second.
Yeah.
My name is Kalia. I wanted to mention, too, as long as we keep giving money to the police, you are still giving money to our killings, the brutalization of all of our people in our communities. When I say abolish the police, I literally mean that. None of that I mean what I fucking said. We don't need the police. What we need are people who give a fuck, and that's not them. We need real public safety, like I said, and this ain't it. And that's in real public, and we need to be reimagining these systems of justice. This ain't justice. This ain't justice. We need to really take a look at the prison industrial complex and know that that is not. Woo! Sorry, y'all. I had a day. Yeah, we need to be looking at the prison industrial complex and knowing that that system of safety, that system of justice, none of that is real. This is, again, colonial, anti-black, and all of those things. We are past that. We need to reimagine what safety really looks like in our communities, and this is not it. Fuck the police, they need to be abolished. I love you.
I'm Nico.
Nico, Kalia.
Yeah. You want to talk?
Yes. This is just more than Daunte, Wright, or George Floyd, but this is a systemic racism that have been so ingrained into this society. And we as a people, the only way we can combat this is not just sitting aside waiting for something to change. We have to be the change. I encourage all young people out there to not only get your voice heard, but y'all need to start paying attention to people in your government. That starts from local council member, the mayors, all the way to the top governors and senators, because at the end of the day, we are the community. We are being impacted. Our lives are being changed, How many times do we have to tell young black people, this is how you have to act in front of a police. This is what you have to do. They don't afford us the same thing they afford these white kids. It's just have some pay. We are just asking for patience. We are asking for understanding. Talk to us. Don't just shoot us like y'all buy burgers for these white killers. Y'all say they are having a bad day. These kids and people will have gun pulled out on y'all. But as soon as it's a black person, you guys are very back to the black people are inferior. You know, you want to show dominance. So people, get out there and vote. Vote like you never have before. Pay attention to what your leaders are saying, your community leaders are saying, what they are doing, the actions they have, and start to make your voice heard. Because that's got to stop. We are tired. We are frustrated. We can't even cry no more, y'all. We can't. So vote, 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 and get your voice heard. And shout out to Unicorn Riot. You guys have been covering this thing like we've been watching. So I'm so proud. I'm so proud of my people. Let's do it the right way. Let's build up our community, build up each other, but also let's get out there. Like, don't just be a bystander. Change don't come when we are complicit. Change come when we impact them. That requires impacting the economy, impacting the political system, impacting the education system, guys. So let's keep trying. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Fuck Trump.
Police. They did that boy bogus, and you know your taser from your gun, stupid ass. And then second degree manslaughter, fuck that shit. Y'all keep getting away with this shit. We tired of that. Fuck the police.
You heard some of the voices of the people here. Again, we're here out in Brooklyn Center. There's a curfew here at 10 p.m. I think. What's up? One sec.
Fuck that curfew like that.
Still under oath, Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson.
Yep.
Just have a few follow-up questions for you, Dr. Tobin. Thank you. In terms of the carbon monoxide testing that you referenced, you would agree with me that the most common technology available in hospital laboratories for analyzing the blood is the multiple wavelength spectrophotometer, also known as the co-oximeter, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Now, in terms of your testimony relevant to the research, you referenced that there were 12 to 20 studies, and correct me if I'm wrong,
yep,
that an increase in pressure on the lungs would increase the narrowing of the hypopharynx.
Not quite.
Okay, can you just say it again?
Yeah, I mean, it is that if you decrease the size of the lungs, that you will get narrowing of the hypopharynx.
And that research would be in physiological journals?
It would be in physiological journals. There's some journals that will be a blend of physiology plus clinical. It will be, but it's primarily going to be in physiological oriented journals.
And those physiological oriented journals would be included within the general search for medical literature?
I mean, if you go into PubMed, it would be included in PubMed, yes.
And you have not produced any of those 12 to 20 articles for the state or I to review?
I mean, I listed several articles in my report of January the 27th. There's several articles in that. I can tell you them if you want to.
Specifically that stand for that proposition?
Regarding the relationship between lung volume and the hypopharynx.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Further?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. You may step down and you are excused.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Blackwell.
Your Honor, the state of Minnesota rests.
Mr. Nelson, anything further? No, Your Honor. All right, members of the jury, the evidence is now complete for this case. Next step for you is to listen to closing arguments and then retire for deliberations. That'll occur on Monday. The attorneys and I will still be working. We have a few administrative matters and legal matters to take care of. Most importantly, going over the law that I will give you in my instructions. And that takes quite a while. And so we are not going to change our schedule. We're not going to close tomorrow. We're going to close on Monday. And so with that, remember, you will be sequestered. We have some of your questions, and we're going to try and answer as many of those as we can. I think the one thing that you need to know today as you leave is, how much do I pack? If I were you, I would plan for long and hope for short. Basically, it's up to the jury how long you deliberate, how long you need to come to a unanimous decision on any count. And so because that's entirely up to you, whether it's an hour or a week, it's entirely within your province. So that's how I would do it if I were you. We'll also give you some information probably Monday as you retire as to other questions that don't require your immediate attention. And we will also be probably giving you some hints as far as technology. We will be operating under the rules that are currently in place regarding audio and video evidence. And that is specifically that you will be provided with a laptop computer that has all the audio and video, in fact, pretty much all the exhibits in this case, on the computer, and with a large monitor to play them. You will not have to come back into the courtroom each time you want to look at the audio or video, which is the old rules, which involves a lot of back and forth. We're not going to do that. We're just going to give you that computer with the arrangements so that you can view it as you deem appropriate as part of your deliberations. So with that, I wish you a good long weekend, and we will see you Monday morning. We will convene at 9 a.m. for closing arguments and final instructions. Thank you so much. All rise for the jury.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. As we expected earlier, closing arguments on Monday. We'll hold here for a little bit. So there's jury instructions. I was kind of alluding to this. What we have seen so far is that there's definitely, basically what the jury instructions are. I've seen a draft of it at this point, and so the jury instructions sort of outline the points which the jury has to confirm to support the charges. And so for example, it might say like, okay, manslaughter, did the defendant recklessly disregard, duty to not kill people, or roughly stuff like that, like recklessly disregard. So there's been debates about the languages. The state has tried to have modifications put in. The judge decides what those instructions are. And so I don't know if that happens out in the open. It's a very good question. So it might be kind of the end of the live streams until closing arguments. It's not clear right now, but if it is out in the open, if it's on the feeds, we'll definitely try to push it out there. So appreciate your support, everyone. Thanks for sharing our material. Thanks for being respectful in the chats. So what we saw here was a rebuttal from Dr. Tobin, who was the state witness, clarifying some stuff about oxygen in the blood and claims that Dr. Fowler, the defense witness, had made. So we've had that. Sorry, 1 second. All right. So it looks like we're not getting any crazy beeping, which is good. But the data feed from court is definitely shut down, so we don't have... Let me check. I don't think we have any more court video. Probably, maybe for today, we might not have any more. Unless... I got a bug. Hold on, folks. Sorry, they messed up the upstream. We'll be up as soon as we can. Thank you. We'll be up as soon as we can here. Have to restart the system. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. They went away again. So there was something from the judge, but we missed it due to this technical glitch. So this is live right now. So there was just about, I think, maybe 1 or 2 minutes of remarks from the judge there, and then they went away. So there wasn't much there, but we did miss it. I am sorry about the glitch there, folks. Yeah, so there is more expected wrangling about jury instructions. If someone caught on one of the other media services that there is anything to be had openly in court, let me know on the chats. Otherwise, what we'll do, I think we'll just probably play some more of the footage from Brooklyn Center yesterday. The time right now in Minnesota is 11 a.m. So, yeah, we'll circle back. We'll take a look at what we can gather about jury instruction wrangling and try to be careful with this connection that could go down again. So we'll just hang on a minute here, folks. We'll see if we can find out anything. But yeah, if you did happen to catch... Okay. Yeah, it's 11 a.m. over there. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so I haven't independently confirmed this, but it seems like they might just be off for... Okay, thank you. We're getting an update here. The judge will instruct the jury in his quarters privately. Court to resume next Monday at 9 a.m. That's hearing from D, or my colleague at Unicorn Riot. 1 second. So they're not going into, to clarify, they're not going into jury deliberations until after the closing arguments, which will be on Monday. And then they'll be sequestered after Monday. They have not been sequestered yet. They're not sequestered. So closing arguments Monday. But yeah, so I guess the jury, because we haven't heard motions in open court about the jury instructions, so it seems like that's not going to happen in court. Okay. Yeah, just to update, D was able to catch it. Judge Cahill will have private consultations with the jury in his chambers, and court starts again Monday at 9 a.m. I think that means the jury instructions, right? I don't have the file with me right now, but jury instructions are the sort of set of questions that the jury is supposed to answer. And if the answers are one way, then the charge is guilty. And if it's the other way, then they're innocent. And so there's second and third degree murder, second degree manslaughter. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. Again, I'm Dan at Unicorn Riot. We really appreciate your support. Alex, crushing it on the tweets today. Dee has been helping out as well. All right, one moment, please. Yes, so for sure, 9 a.m. Central Monday, we should be coming back. But it seems like we will be off until then, I think, with this process. So in terms of live coverage, obviously we've been covering protests. We've been trying to keep tabs on what's been going on in Brooklyn Center and after the killing of Daunte Wright. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Just, set your notifications. You can tune in. You can catch our work. And we will try to cover it live as much as we can. And so what I'll do is we'll run the footage from last night again for a while. And then we'll go down. And I think that'll be the end of today. And Chauvin is not taking the stand. That was also a thing earlier today that got stated that Chauvin would not take the stand. So that definitely happened earlier today. So I'm just going to run that a little more footage from last night for a while. We'll just let that play out. And then we'll go down and probably not be back till Monday at 9 a.m., at least in terms of the court stuff. So thank you all for your support. It's been great. If you can support our work, head over to our website, unicornriot.ninja. And the Chauvin trial landing page up at the top. The donate link there is up at the top as well. If you can support our work, it's going to be at unicornriot.ninja, donate. And we also have a Patreon. And it's been really great to see people signing up for the Patreon this week, which has been really great. It's, again, really hugely appreciated if you got that privilege to afford such a thing. And it's, as independent media, we really count on everyone kind of sharing our work out there. That really makes a huge difference. So, please share our work out there. It's much appreciated. So I'm going to run some more footage from last night, and we'll go down in a little while. But I think we're done in terms of court for today. We aren't expecting anything more to come in today. So I'm going to shut that connection because I think we're done for this feed. Thank you. One moment, please. Again, we do really appreciate your support. We'll mark that it opens up on Monday at 9 a.m. And thanks, everyone. Appreciate your support, everybody.
My birthday tomorrow. I ain't going in the house. Fuck you, me. I'm going outside, Joe. Straight like that with the kids. Fuck you, me. I dare y'all to harm one of them. Some heavy metal will come out. Daunte Wright! Say his name! Daunte Wright! Say his name!
out to the south side of the precinct. See more National Guard trucks that have stationed themselves up here. These are National Guard on the left. Very hard to tell. It's very dark out here.
Every day since Sunday, you killed somebody.
Police are shooting at the fence, pepper spraying somebody now. He just ran up and pepper sprayed people.
What the fuck is your fucking problem, asshole? Piece of shit, you fucking bad cop, you motherfucker! You little bitch! Hands up! Hands up! You gonna point a gun at us, you fucking pig? Fuck you, motherfucker! Hands up! Cocksucker! Come over this fucking fence! Put your fucking gun down! Don't shoot us! We're holding signs, man! They're made out of cardboard! We're not armed like you are!
I guess you guys don't like getting wet! It's just some water!
Fucking pussies! Don't like getting wet! Y'all are doing this for a murderer!
Right here!
The crowd is about over 1,000. line is getting reformed. Again, this is what they're shooting at. People taking cover from their shots. There has been a couple bottles that have been thrown towards them. This is the marker round. That's the green one. 40 millimeter marker round. Couple fireworks have been thrown over the fence. Again, these are Hennepin County Sheriffs. Here's the umbrella wall. Again, this is a protest for Daunte Wright, who was killed on Sunday afternoon by Kim Potter, the head of the police union here in Brooklyn Center, and 26-year vet as well as training.
Your attention, please.
She's a trainer.
From the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office has declared this assembly unlawful under the laws of the state of Minnesota. Minnesota State Statute 609.715 prohibits remaining present at an unlawful assembly. You are hereby ordered to immediately disperse. Please do so quickly by heading to the north. If you do not cease your unlawful behavior and disperse, you will be arrested. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yeah, do it. Reinforcing the barricades. He just got shot in the butt or the back of the leg. These marker rounds hurt.
Justice!
There's a standoff happening here at the police precinct. There's been unlawful assemblies that have been called. The crowd has not moved very much. There's an umbrella block right here, reinforced by a little bit of wood. Keep people safe from the shots that the shooters are shooting. You can see some of the marker rounds there. There's sponge marker rounds, 40 millimeter. They have yellow, blue, green, and they have a white one that they shot me with yesterday. It had some peppery residue within it. It activated after I shook my pants. They've also used HC gas, CS gas, triple chasers, diversion, I can't remember the name, diversion device, something. And now they're mostly resorting to 40 millimeter marker rounds and pepper spray. And it seems like the Hennepin County sheriffs are now in charge here, where yesterday and day before that, it was not Hennepin County sheriffs giving orders. I shouldn't say it was not. I don't think it was. Leaf blower man getting shot. These are the marker rounds hitting them. looks like they're trying to get a medic over here. Somebody seems seriously injured. Everybody is, yeah, you're good, you're good. Everybody's trying to protect them. We're not going to film them, but we'll just try to see real quick if they're okay. Looks like there's some medics that have come in trying to help them. They look pretty seriously injured. They got Justice Frontline Aid out here doing the medicing, telling everybody back up, give them space. The person is on the ground right here. And the police keep shining their lights. Yeah, see, it's pretty. Like when it comes to people getting medical treatment, a lot of times it's much more respectful to not film them. Let's also keep aware of what's happening. So another thing that's happening is a large police presence is now coming. They're going to probably be starting their kettle soon. Person is still getting tended to. Police are not shooting anything right now. They're not pepper spraying anybody. Sort of expanded. Police are coming down the block to the north. Coming up Humboldt.
Justice!
A huge convoy of police are coming in from behind where we are filming. Expect a kettle action as well. The last few nights they've sort of attempted kettles, but they haven't enacted the perfect kettle, if you will. They've allowed people to get out. I'm wondering if they'll do the same or not tonight. It sounds like it sounds like media will not be forced to leave from these announcements. Early announcements that possibly media could be told to stay here, or media could stay here based on the mayor of Brooklyn Center. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're just tuning in, it's Nico from Unicorn Riot. We're here live in Brooklyn Center, outside the police department. This protest is in response to Daunte Wright, who's 20 years old. when he was killed by Brooklyn Center police officer Kim Potter. Kim Potter was jailed today and I believe bailed out. Not 100% positive, but I think she was bailed out. She was jailed on second-degree manslaughter, from my understanding. She's probably back home in her protected enclave in Champlin, where they actually have concrete barricades and fencing, as well as 24/7 police forces and road checks. People in Champlin area got one of those warnings on their phone saying that they should expect protests in their area the next couple days. I'm not sure of any that have happened, but I think people have gone out to the house. But again, Kim Potter killed Daunte Wright. He was 20 years old on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Washington County is the ones who brought charges against Kim Potter. The Washington County attorney is also like super close with police unions. I think he's been like a police union head of some sort, or some police association head or been with them for 25 years, 26 years. Sort of the same with Kim Potter was a police officer for 26 years and a training officer. And she supposedly pulled out her taser instead of her gun while killing Daunte Wright at a traffic stop. You can see the line of police that have started to form. 1 second. Just a quick shout out to all the viewers and supporters for allowing us to continue to do our work. We were able to get some equipment that's a little better. Some of the last ones ran through with the elements out here. So thank you all so much. Appreciated very much all of the support. Again, we are a 501c3 educational nonprofit. My name is Nico. I'm from Unicorn Wright. There's, I think, Dan and Chris helping on the back end. Thank you so much. They're using a lot of pepper balls and other such projectiles that are very spicy.
Is that other person okay? Yes, sir. It's the back perimeter, like.
Inert blast. Okay.
Alright, nope, he can be there. Fuck you.
It's inert blast from Defense Technologies. That's what Hennepin County Sheriff's. So it's inert blast grenade. Oops, sorry about this. And then they have, each one of them has pepper spray in their hands. This gentleman has two. I'm media, man. I'm filming what you all have, and they're just shooting with people.
You're blinding our guys.
I'm shooting it towards where you have these weapons. I'm not blinding anybody. Y'all are blinding other people too. So if you want to know more about some of the less lethal, is what they're called, munitions that the police use and the sheriffs use, you can go to our website, unicornriot.ninja, or go to our Twitter feed. We've been tweeting about it. We have also FEMA Field Force training manual, which shows a lot of the training and a lot of the tactics that the police are using out here, which we're going to see a lot tonight when they start to kettle everybody or start to bring the line in. And again, these are inert blasts. The inert is made with talcum powder, from my understanding, and talcum powder is very, very bad for your body. It causes cancer. And so a lot of these weapons that these police are using causes cancer, and they know it. The same with CS gas and tear gas. That's why it's banned in warfare, because it's a chemical weapon. But yet police in America are allowed to use it, and they use it on civilians a lot, and they've been using it in this neighborhood very, very much. And it doesn't seem like they're using tear gas anymore today. There's two apartment buildings right here and right here, sorry, that show that there's a lot of families here. The police were using a lot of the munitions and affecting and impacting the families in their houses. So that became a big issue these last couple of days, and it seems like they've stopped using tear gas, but now they're using like inert blast and different pepper sprays, usually bear mace, as well as 40 millimeter marker rounds. We've seen a lot shot today.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Dan at Unicorn Riot. So we're going to take the stream down now. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to see the rest of this footage, it was up on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter Live, so we had it out on our other services. So the defense rested today. We heard sort of a rebuttal from Dr. Tobin about respiratory medical science, and defendant Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer, indicated that he was essentially asserting his Fifth Amendment right to not have to testify in his own defense. And so that was essentially what we heard, and what we understand is that they're working on the instructions to the jury, and that happens out of our sight. So we're not expecting any more court feeds for the rest of the week until Monday. So we'll be ready at Monday, 9 a.m. We'll try to start it a little early. And you know, as you know, we tend to keep going live as things are happening in Brooklyn Center. We really appreciate your support. Turn on your notifications for Unicorn Riot if you want to catch us going live. So again, all of that stuff we recorded, it's all back there in the YouTube, in the Twitter, in the Facebook, if you want to watch anything that you missed earlier today. The only thing we missed was just a quick snippet, I think a couple minutes from the judge. I lost the video feed, but he was basically saying that we'll be back on Monday. So again, I'm Dan at Unicorn Riot. I want to thank you all for your support. Alex was helping out with the tweets today, and Dee has been helping out a lot with stuff, and also this week, Chris and Nico have been helping out with other stuff. Also, thank you to Georgia, who's been helping with contributed pieces and things like that along the way. I also want to give a special shout out to someone named Regina, who helped me with internet connectivity, and I told them I would give them a shout out. So thank you, Regina, for helping with getting our internet working for this whole project. So we appreciate your assistance on everything, you guys. It's been quite a ride on the trial, and you know, it's been a challenge, but it's also been interesting. We've all learned a lot. I hope you appreciate what we've been able to bring you. It matters a lot if you can help share out our work. Our website is unicornriot.ninja. The trial landing page is that banner image up at the top, and we've obviously been following the unrest surrounding the killing of Daunte Wright, which started on Sunday. So we're going to take the stream down now, and we appreciate you sharing out all the stuff that we've been up to, and it's been really great to have this support. So thank you so much. Again, this is Dan at Unicorn Riot, signing off from this long trial. It's been fascinating. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.